September the 7th, 2013 was the fourth official non-league day since its inception in 2010. It has always been scheduled to coincide with the Saturday of the international break, when the top two tiers of the English game are inactive. This gives the opportunity for fans who are not familiar with non-league football the chance to see their local side at a discounted price. Non-league day is backed by Premier League and Football League clubs, MPs, celebrities, charities, as well as the non-league clubs themselves, with many of them offering unique initiatives for fans to come through the turnstiles. We caught up with the founder of Non-League Day, James Doe.
How did Non-League Day first come about?
Well, it was 2010. It all started originally. I'm primarily a QPR fan, and I went to a pre-season game down in Devon at Tavistock, and it was really obvious what a big deal it was to the club down there to get all these Championship fans, as it was then, to come down. It was a huge deal. You know, they were made really welcome. All the stops were pulled out. It was a really good event, and it was clear that the money meant a lot to them. And then that just stuck in my mind. And then later on that summer, well, just probably a week or two later, I went to watch Harrogate, who was the sort of non-league team I've always followed. And there was an announcement about there being a fundraiser coming up just to buy floodlight bulbs. I thought, wow, times must be pretty tough. And it sort of stuck in my head again, and the Tavistock thing, and I thought, well, there's all these fans that are quite happy to go and watch non-league games when their team are involved and make lots of money for these teams. Is there any way we can get them to come more often? And then just suddenly I saw on the forthcoming football calendar that England games are actually going to be played on Friday nights for a first time. And it suddenly left the weekend wide open as far as there was no Premier League or no Championship football and no England game. And it just suddenly popped into my head that this could be the chance to do something. And within 6 weeks of having the idea, we had the first non-league day. Well, it's been an eye-opener for some, and not for others, because some go regularly as it is already. I mean, generally they enjoy the experience. You know, of course, some people, it's a massive culture shock for them if they're used to going to the Emirates or something like that, and the standard's not the same, the ground's not the same, and it can be, you know, as I say, a culture shock for them, but others love it. I know of other people who've gone as far as to switch, so they go more often to non-league than they do to Championship or Premier League games now, for whatever reason. I mean, non-league day hasn't been set up as any kind of protest against the big clubs. It's my ethos behind the day is just to try and sort of get a balance, so you know people can see one and the other, and you know, and everyone benefits.
And do you still go to see QPR as well as going to the non-league football?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've been a season ticket holder recently. I'm a member still, and I live in Shepherd's Bush, so it's right on my doorstep, so it feels wrong not to. But yeah, you know, I go to QPR pretty much for as many home games as I can, away when I can. But if not, on my spare weekends, then it's non-league.
And what have been some of for the 4 years that non-league day's been running, what have been some of the highlights for you during that 4 years?
Well, I mean, just the first year, just seeing it, you know, grab people's attention first and foremost. I mean, I just set it up pretty much for fun on Facebook, and it just steamrolled from there. But getting feedback from clubs, from fans all over the country, you know, the way that the media have really bought into it, the way some clubs have had record crowds, you know, which is amazing. I mean, going into the sort of papers the day after any non-league day and seeing all these amazing crowds, it's you know, it makes it really worth doing.
A number of players have gone on to play at the highest level and represent their countries, having begun their careers playing non-league football, including the likes of Kevin Phillips, who's still playing in the Premier League at the age of 40. Ian Wright didn't turn professional until the age of 21. He joined Crystal Palace from Greenwich Borough. He would then go on to join Arsenal, who'd score 185 goals in 288 games. Stan Collymore started his career with West Midlands club Stafford Rangers. Again, Crystal Palace looked to non-league football and signed Collymore before stints at Nottingham Forest, Liverpool and Aston Villa. Chris Smalling, 3 years after playing in the Ryman Premier League with Maidstone United and after a brief spell with Fulham, has established himself in Manchester United's backline. He's won a Premier League winners' medal and has also earned 6 England caps. Les Ferdinand, now a coach with Tottenham, began his career with non-league outfit Hayes. He went on to join Queen's Park Rangers and later had spells with Newcastle United and Tottenham, and also scored 5 goals in 17 games for England. we headed down to the Tottenham training ground to talk to Les.
What were your first memories of playing non-league football?
First memories would be I joined a club when I was about 15, called Viking Sports, which was just on the A40, with probably about 6 or 7 lads from school. And we used to go out, and I always remember our first memories of thinking it was like real football was because it had dugouts. And I played there for about a year in the youth team, and then moved on to Southall, which was now like a proper little stadium. Vikings, the only thing it had that resembled a proper stadium was the dugouts. Went to Southall, and now you had stands and you had terraces and stuff like that with the dugouts, which made it a little bit more professional. So those were my first memories playing sort of like youth team football and working my way up through the ranks.
And of course, did you always have ambitions to play at the top level in the Premiership and playing for your country when playing the non-league game?
Believe it or not, they weren't my ambitions. My ambitions were to just play football and enjoy it. I think I used to watch football. I used to love football, but I never ever saw myself doing it. I didn't think I was good enough, I suppose, at that time. But because I loved it and enjoyed it, I played football for fun back then.
And you also played for Hayes. What was that experience like, playing for Hayes and then getting signed by QPR?
Yeah, well, that was it was strange. We played in 1986, I think it was, 87 Vars final with Southall. We got to the Vars final, went down. Thought we had a really good little team. Unfortunately, we lost in the final, and we thought next season we'd go again. But unfortunately, for some reason, the team disbanded, and Southall was no more as a team. And I was sitting at home through the summer, thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go next season? I still want to play football. Where am I going to play? Unfortunately for me, just before the season started, I got a call from a fellow called George Goody, who was the manager of Hayes at the time. He said, he'd seen me play a few times and would love me to come to Hayes. I think they had a boy called Byron, something at Hayes at the time, had gone to Wickham. So I went in, slotted in there, and believe it or not, everyone says I come from Hayes. I was only at Hayes for 6-7 months. And then it started to attract interest for Queen's Park Rangers, and within sort of like 7 months of being at Hayes, I'd moved on to Queen's Park Rangers.
Would that be something you recommend is kids who, if they don't make it at the top level, to go and play in non-league and get that experience? It's
funny. We had an in-house game here today, and I was talking to one of the players, and I was saying to him, look, I can't understand it. I said I used to work for a living. I used to drive a van. I painted and decorated. I did numerous jobs. But all the jobs allowed me to go and train on a Tuesday and a Thursday and play on a Saturday because it's what I loved doing. I loved playing football at the time, and I still do right up until right to this day. So I wasn't thinking about becoming a professional footballer. I was just thinking about playing football. And I'd recommend it to anybody who has a desire to play football and enjoys playing football. Non-league is a step below playing in the professional leagues, and if there's a club that you can go to and enjoy it that way, you never ever know what's going to happen.
Definitely. And of course, non-league day coming up a week on Saturday. For Tottenham fans, if they're not going to the England game on the Friday, would you recommend Spurs fans going to see the local non-league teams to where they live and to local non-league teams in North London?
Yeah, I think that's that would be great. I think looking at grassroots football and seeing how it all is all developed, and I think it needs to be advertised. The amount of players that have come out of non-league football and actually gone on and not only played in professional football but gone on to represent their country as well. I mean, we're in an age of when you're at a club like Tottenham or you're at one of the Premier League clubs, supporters demand that you've got to spend 10 million, 30 million if you're going to be competing. But I still believe there's got to be hidden gems in non-league football that can come out, and I think Gal at Crystal Palace is a great example. A couple of years ago he's playing non-league football. Now he's in the starting lineup in the Premier League playing for Crystal Palace. So the players are out there. It's just I think clubs need to be a bit more brave and need to go out scouting a little bit more than they're doing at the moment. Unfortunately, we're in the era of it's got to be £10 million, otherwise he's not capable. But I still believe there's some hidden gems, and it may take for supporters to go and watch these games and see people and recommend people for it to start happening again.
And is it something that Tottenham do? They go send scouts out to some of the local non-league teams to see if there is talent there that hasn't been unearthed?
Yeah, we're fortunate in that we got a great scouting system that look all around the country, all around the area, local area, and all around the country, and not just at professional football, but they go into the grassroots and schools and everything else. So yeah, we have got a good scouting system that look at non-league players and make recommendations.
This year, Non-League Day also had a number of ambassadors, including Garth Crooks, Charlie Austin, Jamie Carragher and Graham Taylor. As well as that, they also had Sky Sports commentator Martin Tyler, who's also a coach at non-league side Kingstonian, and we caught up with him.
How did you first get into non-league football, Martin?
Well, you are going back a long way for that. I was, I think, 7 years old when my next door neighbour, not that far away from here in Surrey, a little place called New Haw, said to me, they had 6 kids next door, and the one who was about 4 years older than me said, "We're going to go and watch some football on Saturday. Do you want to come?" "Where are you going?" "Woking," they said. So we got a bus. In those days, your mum and dad didn't worry really what you did, and I went off. I think I got given the bus fare and presumably a few bob to get in. The game, amazingly, was Woking against Kingstonian, and I just loved it. I just fell in love with, watching football and playing football, and it happened to be the accident of that took me to a non-league team. And in the 50s, Woking were very good. They won the old Amateur Cup in 1958. I went to every round as a schoolboy, and they won at Wembley in front of 71,000. It's hard to imagine now, isn't it? It was a real thrill. So for your local team, the first team that you've ever been to see, and that was within 4 years, I think, of me seeing my first game. So I aspired to play. I ended up playing against Woking, actually, in the league, as it was the Isthmian League in those days. And so I was a non-league fan, a non-league player, and I suppose eventually I would come back to it in the coaching, although I never set out to do that. It was only through a friendship with the current K's manager, Alan Dowson. We did a little bit of coaching together at a boys' team when he was still playing. A very good player, and then he got a player manager job at another club not far away from here, Walton and Hersham. He asked me to go and join him, and I said, "I don't want to be a press officer at a non-league club." I thought he wanted my journalistic skills, but he said, "No, come and help out." And that was in 2005, and I said, "I'll come for a couple of weeks pre-season." And although we only stayed at Walton just over a year, we've been here 6.5 years now. So I suppose something about it works, and for me it's a big thrill. Everyone knows what I do for my job, but all the players and all the coaches have other jobs. Mine just happens to be one that you know about.
How did you become an ambassador for non-league day?
Well, I was just asked by the organisers, and I suppose because they know, that I'm involved in non-league football in a capacity that maybe not that many people do know, and they know the history that I've just given you, and I was very happy. No one's trying to say that you should stop supporting a Premier League team and come to a non-league team, but if it suits, for all sorts of reasons, it's very expensive to watch Premier League football, but of course you get great value for your money. But if financially it's too hard, then it's not that expensive. It's not, you don't get in for nothing. I think people should be aware of that. But I do think the quality of the football and the seriousness of it, we learn a lot from our contacts with the Premier League. I know you've spoken to Les Ferdinand, who's a good friend of mine and a really good man, and those type of persons are always available for us to seek advice from. We had some help from Fulham last week to train on an artificial pitch, because we played at Maidstone United to have an artificial pitch, and they allowed us to come in, put on the facility for us, didn't charge us a penny, and was very helpful. We're very close geographically to them, and they keep an eye out for our results like we keep an eye out for theirs. So it isn't a different world. It's just a smaller world, and as I say, it's a very friendly world. So come and see us. Come here. Please do.
Join us in part 2, where we join Martin Tyler's Kingstonian for their non-league day encounter at Kingsmeadow against Grays Athletic.